Welcome, it's history. I'm Sarah. Today's topic is the Cold War with 8 topics. Topic number 1. 2 causes of the Cold War: mutual mistrust and different ideology. Communist dictatorship versus democratic capitalism. Backstory time. Russia became a communist state after the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, which took place during the final years of World War I. The Bolshevik Revolution led to the creation of the Soviet Socialist Republics, the USSR, in 1922. Okay, the USSR and the US were never particularly close. In fact, during the time of the Bolshevik Revolution, or the Russian Revolution in 1917, the US were worried about the immigrants who would come to the US because of what's going on there. But this wasn't the initial start of the Cold War. The Cold War happened after World War II because of the suspicion both had accumulated during World War II. The US and the USSR worked together during Germany's invasion of the Soviet Union and Japan's attack on Pearl Harbor. However, the US did not forget the Soviet Union's non-aggression pact with Germany made between Soviet Premier Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler in 1939. On the Soviet side, they did not forget the U.S. delayed entry into World War II, their exclusion from the development of the atomic bomb, and they knew America's attempt to undermine the Russian Revolution. So after the Soviet Union and the U.S. came out as the world's two powerhouses, suspicion of each other only grew the stronger they got. Topic number 2. Have you ever wondered why the Cold War never actually turned hot? It's because the two parties never actually fought each other. They fought through proxy wars. They like the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Soviet-Afghanistan War, let's not forget the borderline almost proxy war, the Cuban Missile Crisis. They fought through espionage where they would gather information and intelligence on each other, primarily stealing military and technical secrets like nuclear technology. They fought through races like the nuclear race, the space race, and let's not forget the propaganda of each other. And here are some examples. Topic number 3. Countries involved in the Cold War. First, the U.S. side. Countries who joined the U.S. was because they believed in democracy and want protection from communism. Major NATO/Western Bloc members are United Kingdom, France, Canada, Western Germany, Italy, Belgium, Netherlands, Denmark, Norway, Portugal, Greece, Turkey, Luxembourg, Spain, who joined later in 1982, Iceland. Some countries who are not official NATO but have supported are Australia, New Zealand, Japan, South Korea, and Israel. On to the Soviet Union side. Countries who joined the Soviet Union side was because they were either controlled by the Soviet Union, shared communist ideologies, or relied on the USSR for protection. Major Warsaw Pact/Eastern Bloc members are East Germany, Poland, Czechoslovakia, Hungary, Romania, Bulgaria, Albania, which was part of the Warsaw Pact but left in 1960. Let's not forget communist allies worldwide were China, early ally, later split up with the USSR, Cuba, North Korea, Vietnam, during the war, then unified. Topic 4. 4 effects of the Cold War on the governments of the world today. Effect number 1. The hatred of communism today. Many governments still have distrust for communism because of propaganda, conflict, and political tensions that came out during the Cold War. For example, Korea has anti-communism laws. One of these is the National Security Law, created in 1948 because of the threat from North Korea. This law bans activities that could help North Korea or support communism, and has been used to punish groups of people suspected of supporting the North. And in the U.S., there is a strong anti-communism law. The Communist Control Act of 1954 made the Communist Party illegal by labeling it a group trying to overthrow the government. Even though parts of the law are non-enforced today, it is still technically a part of the U.S. law. Another example is the Internal Security Act of 1950, which requires communist organizations to register with the government. Effect number 2. The creation of NATO. NATO was originally created to protect the Western countries from the Soviet Union. Now plays a big role in the international politics, guaranteeing the freedom and security of its members through political and military support. Effect number 3. United Nations. The Cold War changed how the United Nations functioned because the USSR and the US were competing for influence. It became a place where countries could negotiate, avoid war, and help to solve conflicts peacefully. Today, the UN continues to play an important role through peacekeeping missions, delivering humanitarian aid, responding to health crises, and supporting sustainable development. In fact, as in 2020, the United Food War Program received the Nobel Prize for its effort to fight hunger worldwide. Effect number 4. Policies. During the Cold War, the US and the USSR had built many nuclear weapons, technologies, which led to the policy of mutual absurd destruction, MAD. This policy meant if one country launched a nuclear attack, both the attacker and the defender would be completely destroyed. MAD is still a core part of how nuclear power are managed. Topic number 5. 2 long-term effects of the Cold War. Long-term effect number 1. The space race. The space race was a competition between the USSR and the US to see who is more advanced and technological superior. It began with the launch of the Sputnik, the world's first artificial satellite, by the USSR, which made the US worry mostly about the technology that launches the device, since money and nuclear energy would have to aid the development. This led to the creation of the NASA and the moon landing. The space race has led to numerous technological advancements like satellites for GPS, global technology, improved weather forecasting, freeze-dried food, cordless vacuum, memory foam, and create new job opportunities that affect our lives today. Long-term effect number 2. China's economic growth. As China began to adapt capitalist elements after Deng Xiaoping became leader, China started experimenting with market-style policies, which caused its economy to grow rapidly. Earlier, China and the USSR had major disagreements in the late 1950s and early 1960s, which pushed China to look for new allies. As a result, China began improving its relationship with the US, leading to trade opportunities, better technology, and economic support. Today, China is one of the world's largest economies, major military power, and helps play a role in important international policies. Topic number 6. Opinion-based. Was the Cold War necessary? I believe it was because of 2 major reasons. The U.S. had to stop the spread of communism and the power of the Soviet Union. The Soviet Union was spreading at an alarming rate, and it had a negative effect on Eastern Europe. Its president had led to decades of economic stagnation and political repression and Eastern blockade. Without the U.S. resistance, Eastern Europe would be continually lagging behind Western Europe. A specific piece of evidence is in the Berlin blockade when the Soviet Union tried to cut off all supplies to Western Berlin to force Western allies out. This shows the aggression of the USSR and the importance of protecting the democratic countries in the control of the USSR. Communism is seen as a threat to democracy and the rights of the individual. I believe that the communist system allows for too much control from the state and restricts the personal freedoms. If the Soviet Union were to spread, the type of communism would affect the U.S. both economically, socially, and politically. However, this is just my opinion. It's up for you to decide. Topic 6. Opinion-based. Is the Cold War still going on? In my personal opinion, I don't believe the Cold War is still going on. I will state my reasons. First, the Soviet Union has been disbanded. The USSR formally disbanded on December 26, 1991, one day after President Mikhail Gorbachev resigned on December 25th. Gorbachev played a major role in the fall of the Soviet Union because he openly recognized the failures of the Soviet system and pushed reform, which had weakened the government's control. As economic problems worsened, Gorbachev turned to negotiation with the West. His cooperation with President Ronald Reagan led to important agreements, including the major nuclear reduction treaties, making an end to intense Cold War hostility. On to my second reason. I don't believe this Cold War is still going on because during the Cold War, communism was viewed extremely negatively in the United States. Anti-communist fear led to McCarthyism, named after Senator Joseph McCarthy, who launched investigations in the 1950s claiming that they were communist spies and traitors inside the U.S. government. Many innocent people were blacklisted, lost jobs, and had their reputation destroyed. If the Cold War were still happening today, communism would likely be widely hated or aggressively suppressed. However, modern America allows for communist groups to exist openly. Some examples are Communist Party USA, CPUSA, American Communist Party, CAP, and Revolution Communist Party, RCPUSA. Some communist parties are even seeing small political successes. For example, Hannah Shvets, a student organization and a CPUSA member, was elected to the Ithaca Common Council in New York. Topic number 8, the Cold War importance to international relations today. The Cold War is important to international relations today because it shaped many systems countries still use today. It created major alliances like NATO that continue to influence global security. It also left geopolitical divisions, especially between the East and the West, that still affect world politicals. The Cold War has brought the rise of nuclear power and policies that are still used today and have affected new policies. It also has major economic effects, such as the global trade competition and the rise of countries like China. In addition, it led to important technology advances like satellites, computers, GPS, internet, and mass production of everyday uses like the refrigerator. So, finally, the Cold War caused many lasting political effects, influencing how countries choose their governments and how they interact with each other today. That's it for today. Bye. I hope you enjoyed my video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't. Okay, ciao.